Right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our Air Pollution Control District October 9th Governing Board regular meeting. We're going to go ahead and start the meeting, and with that, I will ask the clerk to call the roll.
Thank you, Chair Bush. Before I call the roll, I would like to note for the record that Member Aguirre will be joining us virtually as permitted by the Brown Act under just cause due to contagious illness. Member Aguirre, can you please confirm that there is no one present in the room with you that is 18 years of age or older? And can you please turn on your video?
I can confirm that, but I'm sorry, I'm trying to get my camera to work and it's not working. See?
Make sure she's not in another Zoom. In two Zooms, I'm not feeling this. Make sure she's not in another Zoom, because sometimes if you have two Zoom windows open and she hasn't closed the other one, then the camera won't turn on in this one.
Yeah, we have a technical suggestion for her to make sure she's not in another Zoom, but also from a legal perspective, yes, the member must participate through both audio and visual technology for the Brown Act purposes. So we have her try again, maybe. I don't know.
Remember, I recommend that if you can, just because it's legally required for your camera to be on, your audio is working, so that part is good. But if you could try to get your camera on, just so that we don't have any issues participating in the vote, I think that's when it's most important. Is that good?
I mean, I've been trying for the last 10 minutes. So it's okay.
Well, I would recommend you still participate as much as possible, and then in the meantime, if you can try to either check your phone or try to come up with some other way. But in the meantime, we appreciate you being on, and so just recommend you do the best right now, because at least we have quorum, right?
Yeah, but I think that is a good idea to do the phone, like maybe log off and then do come in with the phone, because yeah, that is the requirement to pay through both audio and visual.
And with the phone, you would still need to have your video on, so it would be audio and video on the phone.
Yeah.
So we'll take roll, and then once you're able to join virtually with those audio and video, then we'll consider you present at that time. So with that,
And I'm sorry, did Member Aguirre confirm whether there's another adult in the room with her or might have missed that part?
Maybe Yuri, are you on?
Yes, I answered. I do not have another 18 or older member in my household.
So I think what our staff is going to do is consider you absent until they can get the visual going. But in the meantime, I think if you could just try to use your phone or try to technically work around it. But and until then, we have quorum.
That's fine. Thank you, Chair. Let's proceed.
Okay.
thank you. With that, as noted, Member Aguirre is absent. Member Burkbeck Garcia. Here. Member Bush.
Here.
Member Campbell. Here. Member Duncan.
Here.
Member Fitzgerald.
Here.
Member Gloria.
Here.
Member Gomez. Member Cabal. Member Lawson Reamer. Member Stiglitz Granados.
Here.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to non-agenda public comment. Clerk, can you please address the procedure for public comment?
Thank you, Chair Bush. This is an opportunity for members of the public to speak to the board on any subject matter within the board's jurisdiction, but not an item on today's agenda. We have 5 speakers here in the room, and I believe we have 3 that are online. We'll begin with David Langstein. You'll have 3 minutes to address the board. Please begin by stating your name for the record.
Do you mind if Mr. Wong goes first?
Okay. We will switch it out. So we'll have Ben Wong. You have 3 minutes to address the board. Please begin by stating your name for the record, and you will be able to use the timer on the screen to monitor your time.
Great. My name is Ben Wong. Hi, my name is Ben Wong. I'm a proud SEIU 221 union member and APCD employee. I worked at APCD for 12 years, and I worked to do the work they do to keep the public safe by ensuring local air toxics hotspot risks do not exceed APC thresholds. Amongst the SEIU members at APCD, we want to thank the board for the collaborative contract wins achieved by the county and APCD workers. The addition of the 2 new top steps across the 9 classifications, along with the after-hours complaint program premium for 3 classifications, means experienced workers like myself are more likely to keep working here, making us better able to provide clean air for all. In closing, we again want to thank the board for this agreement that makes us better able to serve the public and do critical work to preserve the quality of life in our region. Thanks.
Thank you. I'd like to note for the record that member Lawson Weaver has joined the meeting. With that, Mr. Langston, please begin by stating your name for the record. You'll have 3 minutes to address the board. Please use the timer on the screen to self-regulate your time.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Dave Langston from SEIU Local 221. I asked if Mr. Wong could go first because I'm mostly here to just say ditto. I'm not totally sure if everyone understands the history. Then Assembly Member Gloria carried a bill that created this agency, and part of the discussion was to keep SEIU for wages, workers, and our working conditions and contract negotiations under the broader county contract. And so with that history, that's helped us kind of maintain that work. We had a successful negotiation that had a contract even in this difficult environment. And part of that was having to interact with the board and the leadership to make sure that the workers that fulfill the important ABCD mission were taken care of. And frankly, it was very successful. This completed, I think, in about June. It's taken a while to get here, so I apologize, but I think we're very good as a union to say when there's a problem, when to push back, but we certainly wanted to acknowledge that having the support and making sure that the workforce is taken care of as part of fulfilling the mission of the agency. Certainly now more than ever, as I know there's going to be further discussion on the agenda. We talk kind of in our work with the county, with Supervisor Aguirre, who hopefully is on, and Supervisor Lawson Reamer, representing the park rangers, that are serving the public in Tijuana Valley, and to make sure that we have the data and information to keep the park rangers safe and to keep the folks that are visiting the campground safe, and of course in South Bay writ large. So again, this is an acknowledgement of supporting the workforce as part of this negotiations. We don't come here often, but wanted to make that acknowledgement, and again, thank the board for your support. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Michael McGeary. You'll have 3 minutes to address the board. Please begin by stating your name for the record, and you can self-regulate your time using the timer on the screen.
Thank you very much. You know, it's always a little intimidating to come before such a distinguished group of people. Ms. Reamer, I've known your parents since the mid-70s. Okay. Councilmember Campbell, it's fantastic to see you back in stride. And of course, Mr. Mayor, we've always been friends. We haven't always agreed, but I've always admired you, and I knew you when you were just starting off too. So it's nice to be here today. I'm here today with 2 clients, Mika Polanco and Louisa McCarthy, and we're here to bring to your attention an unpleasant task that we're asking you to look into, in which Chair Marcus Bush has used a complaint that was filed against our clients that was then resolved, and but used it against them to embarrass them at city council. There's a hot conflict at the National City Council, and we're just here to ask you today to look into this, because we don't want our public officials using their access to public information on one agency to try to use that to gain an advantage over citizens that are coming in front of them in another agency. So we have a tape for you to hear, and we're just asking you to take a look. And I know that's always hard. You know, it's always easy to police our adversaries. It's really hard to hold our friends accountable, but that sometimes can be the best service that you can do for a friend, is to make sure that they are living up to the ethical standards which govern this board and which govern this fantastic county that we have of honesty and integrity, and objectivity. So again, thank you very much for letting us come before today and appreciate the opportunity to, it's great to see everybody and hope to see you sometime soon in another capacity. I am not a stand-in though for the other degree. I'll tell you that right now. So don't hold anything I say against her. There's no connection, although I have a great deal of admiration and congratulate her for having achieved a magnanimous or amazing accomplishment. And so we're proud that she's carrying the Aguirre name forward to higher levels of accomplishment. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Michaela Polanco. About 3 minutes to address the board. Please begin by stating your name for the record.
My name is Micaela Polanco, and I'm the owner of La Vista Memorial Park and Mortuary. And I do see some familiar faces here, Mr. Todd Gloria. We have mutual friends in common, Mrs. Peabody, and of course, I've been working with Mr. Ridgewell and Nathan Guthier and Mary Mahoney. I've been working with the air pollution control for many years. I would like you to please play the tape. Mia, if you would please.
It's the height of the hypocrisy. They come up here and try to chastise us for being applicants about air pollution when they the water park. That thing is perfect. I come here and put this violation criteria from
Maybe I could use my cell phone if that's okay, Mia.
Control district, which I currently chair, and our staff reviewed the pollution control district, which last thing I'll say, two of the comments that I think were hypocritical and I don't appreciate from Mika and Lisa for a number of different reasons, and they come here with their clown show every single meeting, but it's the height of hypocrisy for them to come up here and try to chastise us for even applicants about air pollution when they own La Vista Memorial Park. It has a crematorium. I have here a notice of violation right here, and I can give you all copies. From August 15th, 2024, until the date that this was reported, October 10th, 2024, they had a notice of violation for air pollution, for their crematory exceeding air particulate matter. And specifically, it was particulate matter conditions 12, failure to maintain the exhaust stack total particulate grain loading below 10 grains and 12% CO2 volume. So when you read this, it's nearly 3 times the limit. That's an issue. And so I don't want people coming up here being hypocrites, right? They were polluting themselves. They got cited by our air pollution control district. So I want to put that on the record.
What Member Bush is not saying and how he's misleading the public is that I have worked with air pollution control to fix this issue, and I fixed it immediately. I admit it, and we fixed it. He did not disclose that we had been restated in that source test in 2024, and that we have a current operating permit from the air pollution control to operate. He never mentioned that in his public comments in National City. He only stated that we were polluting.
Your time is concluded.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Louisa McCarthy. You'll have 3 minutes to address the board. Please begin by stating your name for the record, and please use the timer on the screen to self-regulate your time.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Louisa McCarthy. I'm co-owner of La Vista Memorial Park and Mortuary. We are the only family-owned and operated cemetery, mortuary, and crematory on site. LGBTQ women-owned. Our cemetery is the second oldest cemetery in San Diego County, established in 1868, serving the community for over 157 years. Prior to working in the death care industry, I worked in the field of corrections, both city and federal. My spouse, Micaela, and I have worked very hard to grow our business in a male-dominated industry. We pride ourselves for celebrating traditions such as Memorial Day and the largest traditional Dia de los Muertos celebration in San Diego County. The Vista Memorial Park, located in the Lincoln Acres community that serves the people of National City and beyond. We are concerned that one of your members, Marcus Bush, is not honoring the board's ethical principles of honesty, integrity, and fairness. Member Bush is embroiled in a dispute at National City over a project the National City Planning Commission rejected because it was a public health nuisance project. In a National City Council meeting, Member Bush used an outdated SDAPCD report to embarrass us and to hurt our business. We respectfully request the SDAPCD to review the matter. We are providing your clerk with the documents and information to allow a thorough review of Member Bush's alleged ethical violations. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next speakers are our virtual callers. Our first speaker is Truth. You have 3 minutes to address the board. Please begin by stating your name for the record and use the timer on the screen to self-regulate your time.
Hey there, it's Truth. I found in a PRA a fun email to Paulo Forbes and Marvis Mazik. Subject, restraining order from Cesar Javier sent September 23rd, 2025 at 1:20 p.m. Quote, hi, Paulo and Marvis. Just reaching out to inform you that Cesar Javier was served with a temporary workplace violence restraining order for making a violent threat against the council members. He is now prohibited from being within 100 yards of the council members and their workplace. The city attorney's office will ask the court to issue a restraining order effective for 3 years. I'm informing you so that whenever there is an APCD board meeting, you inform the sheriffs at the county building about this. Regards, Manuel Reyes, Senior Policy Advisor and LGBTQ+ Liaison, Office of Councilmember Jennifer Campbell, City of San Diego, Council District 2, end quote. Marvis's reply 4 minutes later, quote, hi, Manuel, I will be sure to alert the sheriff prior to holding meetings at the County Administration Center to ensure Mr. Javier is not present. Best regards, Marvis Mazik, Clerk of the SDAPCD Governing Board, end quote. For the record, Mr. Javier never made a direct violent threat. He uttered a very unsavory opinion. It is also unconstitutional to impede someone from redressing their government. If it were me, I'd apologize for severe misspeaking and then sue every agency involved. Speaking of law, I demand proper order of speakers be recognized by whoever is acting as chair. When that doesn't happen and some are allowed to speak 5 times before others, a point of order on process is warranted. And about the IBWC's ozone nanobubbles that the Prather and Paloma show suddenly have a problem with. First, does anyone really believe that bubbles are going to stop 50 to 100 million gallons of sewage a day? Second, why didn't they express those bubble concerns at the last APCD meeting? Third, the constituents' guinea pigs claim is exactly what absent Paloma's epidemiological study will do. After the IBWC began their bubbles approximately on September 10th, APCD's hydrogen sulfide data shows that Mexico is still dumping at 4 to 6 a.m. every night, but the HS2 numbers are considerably lower than August and the first week of September. Instead of a max of 150 parts per billion, it's a max of 21 parts per billion. So preliminary results are showing positive changes in air quality, if at all. The water quality, however, is unchanged. Time will tell on future results, and of course, I don't want bubbles to be used as an excuse to not hold Mexico accountable for their environmental damage and harm upon our people. But instead of fear-mongering, Prather and Paloma should focus on results either correlating or not correlating. But I know some are highly concerned that their cash cow studies won't be needed anymore. Too bad. No more grifters plaguing Imperial Beach anymore. Speaking of which, I'm glad the clown show of the attorney grifter and the multiple-time air quality violators from the mortuary are in attendance. Let all expose themselves because box checking is not going to save liars. And lastly, APCD needs an updated speaker sign-up system. It should be more than one item at a time that you can sign up for. Thank you.
Thank you. Our final speaker is Alicia Morrison. You have 3 minutes to address the board. Please begin by stating your name for the record and use the timer on the screen to self-regulate your time.
Alicia Morrison for the record. I have learned from a public comment at a recent National City Council meeting that air quality control measurements of the EPA monitoring stations closest to a proposed fuel transfer station project in National City is located in Sherman Heights. Also learning from the San Diego Air Pollution Control Site, Chula Vista had a monitoring site that was demolished and reconstructed. How are sites selected to have monitoring stations? One would think that the most polluted cities with high industrial and commercial businesses within close proximity to residential communities and schools would be hot zones to place monitoring stations. For example, National City, a community already disproportionately impacted by air pollution. This federal administration is failing us, but all of you at the local level need to make changes now. How can you better serve your constituents when there is a lack of proper data to accurately reflect the conditions in a highly polluted region such as National City? I am asking you act now to find real data of the air quality measurements in National City's industrial and commercial regions, specifically at the 18th and Cleveland Avenue before the November 4th, 2025 National City Council meeting. One council member was interested in, quote, putting conditions such as zero emission vehicles, end quote, on developer USDG clean fuels delivery system. The high probability of that happening, impossible. Why? Because first, there is only one switcher locomotive that is still being tested today that runs on hydrogen powered fuel. I doubt very seriously that they are going to bring that switcher to LA so that they can transport biofuel to National City. That is a pipe dream. Hydrogen is the smallest and the most abundant element in the universe. It is highly explosive and flammable. Due to its very wide explosive range, which is 4 to 75% in air, it has a low ignition energy, 1/10 of natural gas, giving it at fast flame propagation speed. Does H-bomb ring a bell? 3,000 times more powerful than the atomic bomb that was dropped in Hiroshima. Second, how would the developer or National City even enforce zero emission vehicles needed for transportation? The developer is not going to enforce that. That is nothing but a $200,000 of corporate greed blowing smoke into that pipe dream. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes public testimony under non-agenda public comment.
Thank you, Clerk. And before we move on to the business, I just want to respond to the claims from La Vista Memorial Cemetery, specifically Luis and Nika. So for the record, they have, I think it's up to 5 lawsuits filed against the city of National City for a project that has been canceled. It's Sweetwater Gas Station project. And I'm sorry. Oh, yes.
Just a reminder, just a brief response would be.
I'm sorry.
Just a brief reminder, the board would, the Brown Act would just require like just a brief response.
Okay, so I'll make this brief. But I want to say that I would encourage our clerk to look into these claims. It's part of what their tactics have been, to bully, harass, and intimidate anyone who is not trying to do what they want them to do. And what is that? You're trying to extort the city of National City to lower and rezone the property that you're trying to buy. And that's a record and that's a fact. And I want everyone here on the board to know that and everyone in the public to know that, because I don't have anything to hide. And yes, I did bring up the hypocrisy of what you guys are doing. And I brought up the complaint, the notice of violation. I did bring that up because it's valid, because it was related to the project. And because, you know, it's really rich to me too, that you're saying integrity and you're saying honesty, and you came up here and you lied even about that. The project is not, I'm gonna keep speaking. You're advising me, but I'm gonna keep speaking. So the project is dead. It's a dead project. We've moved on from it. And so I encourage us to look into this. But at the end of the day, all the facts are right here, the notice of violation and everything else. And I would just encourage us as a board not to be intimidated by these kinds of tactics or the frivolous lawsuits, because at the end of the day, we're doing the work. It's all right here on the record. And so we just need to put that out there. So I want to clarify that as briefly as possible. So with that, we can go ahead and move on to our business.
Chair, I have a member public comment. Nice name. Thank you. 2 brief comments. One is At our last meeting, when the vice chair was running it, I expressed some frustrations, and I'm not want to get into those. I just want to apologize. And my tone was pretty harsh when I was expressing my opinion about that. So that's a little bit, I'm known for being very direct, but the harshness of my tone was beyond how I feel like. I apologize for that first. And I realize to a certain extent, many of us in here are volunteers, but especially the non-elected. So I just want to acknowledge that. Well, my other brief public comment that I wanted to mention is I have a very strong belief in the independence of the board and that each board member, has an equal vote, right? And that's regardless of whether it's a busy agency or higher public office, et cetera. So one of the things I think would help with that is if as the pollution control district officer, as our leader, if you issue a correspondence on a matter, particularly when it's something like the sewage issue, like it's on this agenda, it was on our last agenda, when a letter is issued stating that, this agency does not agree with what the IBWC or federal agency is doing, I'm not challenging the content or the power of doing that. What I'm suggesting is anytime that happens, at that time, that communication be shared with all board members at the same time. Because that communication, which was issued by this board, I did not see. I found out about it. I appreciate you telling me, but I didn't see it again until I asked for it. And I'm not sure every member of this board has seen it, but that is a pretty weighty action to me when this agency issues disagreement with a federal agency on a sewage and air potential pollution issue. So I just wanted to mention that. And again, I'm not trying to cast any aspersions or anything. It's just for me, the boards have operated different ways at different times. But for me, every member of this board, when it comes to voting, is 100% equal with this agency and with public. So that is a big issue for me because when that letter was issued by this agency, it was extraordinarily similar to the letter that was issued from Supervisor Geary, like right around the same. Because I got a copy of that letter after that. Just wanted to share that. That's something I appreciate it. Yeah, I don't need it in a compensation way. It's something that's important. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, thank you. And as far as is there anything you wanted to say? That I know that typically has been a practice when letters do go out.
Actually, I would say it's probably not. I mean, we put out letters to EPA and federal agencies quite frequently, and rarely do they come to the board, but I appreciate the sentiment, especially on this issue. And I recognize the public interest in this issue, so I think we can definitely do a better job. And I 100% agree, every board member is equal and has an equal voice on this board. So I'm happy to ferret that out. But what I will say is, as an agency, we put out many letters to City of National City, to local, state, federal agencies every day. And so just identifying kind of where that line gets drawn, I think I'm happy to talk with you more about it offline and figure that out. But I appreciate it and definitely and we'll definitely take it.
And maybe that's my position as chair. That's why I get so much of the correspondence. But it was, as you know, consistent with our board direction in the past. So definitely encourage you to talk about that so that you're in the loop, because especially that affects your constituents in your area the most. And I do appreciate the accepting the responsibility of the last meeting. We all, so we're all human. We all have our things that happen. So I appreciate that, Member Duncan. If you want to say something else.
Just real briefly, I appreciate those comments because there's been, I think, a big large shift in the last 2 years at Sandag. And one of the things is the CEO is working to do more of that. And I think it's really appreciate it. I trust your discretion. So I'm not requesting, yes. So thank you for listening.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jim.
And with that, we'll move on to, is there any other members of the board that wish to speak? With that, moving on to item number C, approval of the regular April 10th and August 14th special meeting, September 11th, statements, proceedings, minutes. Clerk, do we have any members of the public who wish to address us on this item?
We received no request to speak on this item.
Okay. With that, can I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Vice Chair, second by Member Duncan. All right. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions?
Thank you. With members of the hearing, Gomez and Cabral absent, that motion passes with all board members who are present voting aye.
Great. Okay, moving on to the agenda, we have item T1, the resolution designating dates and times for regular meetings of our pollution control district governing board 1.6. Clerk, can you go over the procedure for public testimony?
Thank you, Chair Bush. I would note for the record that for the governing board administrative code, the submission period for requests to speak on this item has been closed. All public testimony will be heard at the conclusion of any staff comments.
Okay, with that, it looks like member comments from our Ms. Forbes.
Just quickly, governing board, this calendar is proposed for you for next year. And it mirrors the schedule that we had this year with meetings on the second Thursday at 2 p.m. Here, here in this location, hopefully, and with the one exception to that being the May meeting, which would be our evening budget meeting starting at 5 p.m. It's in your packet, but I just wanted to highlight it's the same as we've done this year.
Okay, to that, members of the public.
There are no requests to speak on this item.
Okay, any board member comments or questions? Oh, all right. Oh, yes, member Lawson.
Yeah, thank you. Just triple checking that we cross-reference with all major and minor religious holidays.
Yes.
Thanks.
All right, with that, we have a motion to approve. All right, motion by member Campbell.
Have to be second.
Second by member Duncan. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Thank you. That motion adopts the resolution entitled Resolution Setting the Dates and Times for Regular Meetings of the San Diego County Air Pollution Control District Governing Board in calendar year 2026. With members of Geary, Gomez, and Cabral absent, that motion passes with those board members who are present voting aye.
Awesome. With that, we move on to item D2, the Tijuana River Valley Sewage Emergency, and a presentation from Dr. Kim Prather regarding impacts to air quality from or water quality in the Tijuana River. This item is informational, so no action. So with that, Dr. Prather, you can start moving up front, and we'll have our clerk give the procedure.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Bush. For the governing board administrative code, the submission period is closed for requests to speak on this item. All public testimony will be heard at the conclusion of the presentation.
All right, thank you. Ms. Vargas, did you want to do the introduction?
Yes, thank you, Chair Bush and board members. I'm very happy to introduce Dr. Kim Prather, who's here to provide an overview of the research she and her team have completed on the link between poor water quality and poor air quality due to the Tijuana River Valley transboundary wastewater crisis. Dr. Prather is a distinguished chair in atmospheric chemistry and distinguished professor at UC San Diego. She's also the founding director of two major research centers, the NSF Center for Aerosol Impacts on Chemistry, the Environment, and the Meta Institute for Airborne Disease and a Changing Climate. Many of you on this board are very familiar with Dr. Prather's work, but we want to provide an opportunity for all of our board members and the public to hear her findings, and we're fortunate to have her with us here today. So with that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Prather.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation to be here. And I think many of you have seen a lot of the work that I will talk about, but I'm going to also provide an update today. So you better have I'll warn you, you better have your seatbelts on. There's a little bit for everybody is what I would say. And then I'm happy to have follow-up discussions later. It was challenging to put this, to pull all this together. So next slide, please. All right, so I don't think I have to spend too long on this slide other than to say this is sort of where we came in years ago, actually thinking about, a lot of the focus has been on people going to the beach, people going in the water, people surfing, and sort of the water quality or water exposure pathway. And we started thinking back in 2017, what about the air? If the pollution gets transferred from the water to the air, that's many more people across San Diego County, as I'll show today, that are being impacted. So, you inhale 11,000 liters of air a day. You drink 2 liters of likely filtered water. So it's the largest exposure route, but it's the one that we and everyone actually in the world understand the least about. The other thing about when the water is polluted, you can shut down the beach, you can shut down the water, but you can't tell people to stop breathing. And so this creates extra problems, as I'll allude to later. Next slide, please. So we published a few papers. First one was in 2021. On this topic, we started working with the oceanographers when they put the pink dye, to trace how far up and down the coast it goes. And then we got off on our own looking at things like bacteria. We were able to use genomic sequencing to link the bacteria in the air to the bacteria in the river. Up to 3/4 of the bacteria you inhale in Imperial Beach come from that polluted river. And then recently we published in March a paper showing many other wastewater chemicals. And in fact, the sewage itself is getting airborne. And so again, getting back to this point, once it's in the air, there are far more people that are being exposed. Next slide, please. So I'm going to just sort of focus on this particular aspect and then I'll give an update, but I just want to make sure everybody's up to speed on our recent publication, which came out on August 28th, I think, in Science Magazine, which is sort of the gold standard for us as scientists to publish in. So it has received the gold stamp of approval. But many of you read, there was coverage for this had been really low, but suddenly it started sort of ramping up. We were very excited when we saw that the attention to the things that we were measuring in September led to an article in the LA Times. We spent time with the reporter, but basically the community had been complaining for a long time. And in particular, the last 2 summers have been really bad. And we had done most of our research. All the publications that I showed were from what we call wet season, rainy season, when there's billions of gallons of water going through, and it is a river at that point. But during dry season, when we got there in August, there were 40 to 80 million gallons per day of wastewater flowing through that valley. It wasn't a river. I refuse to call it a river. It was just straight up wastewater, industrial waste mixed with raw sewage. And so the community was complaining. There were escalating odor reports. APCD did a wonderful job of collecting those. And so that's where sort of the story comes together. But prior to this work, where we went in what we call the dry season, we looked always at the aerosols. I'm an aerosol scientist, not the gases. But when the smells are there, next click, please. The odors are gases. Aerosols don't smell. So we had to pivot and we had to start measuring the gases. Next slide, please. So this is a little bit busy, but I'll just make the point that the first thing we did, which is what we've always done, is we went to the coast. We have a mobile lab. We put it at Border Field, right at the border, and we started looking for hydrogen sulfide. And, basically the community said, what are you doing there? The smell is here, it's inland, and it's not at the coast right now. And so listening to the community was a key part. Without that, we wouldn't have gotten the answer that we got. But also just looking at our data, you can see when there's high winds, which is the blue, there's high winds coming off the ocean, there's hardly any hydrogen sulfide. But when you look on the right, that's when there's low winds coming from inland. You can see that is the source. So there's an inland source of this hydrogen sulfide gas that was being detected. So we had to pivot and we had to move our sampling site inland. Next slide, please. So this just shows the whole region, shows where we started at Border Field in August, and then shows where we moved into the Nestor community in September. So we started on September 1st. This is what has been referred to and is continuously referred to as the hot spot. You can see the foam is very evident, and I'll come back to that a bit more towards the end. But what's not known is we've set up an entire air quality monitoring system across the entire region of the South Bay. So we've been making measurements 24/7 since we started these back in September of 2024. So next slide, please. So this is what the hotspot looks like. Basically, it's where water is forced under Saturn Boulevard. It goes through a culvert. So it's just basically being forced through pipes. On the other side of the road, it's pretty calm and there's not really much of a smell. But when it gets forced through these pipes, this is where the worst smells were detected, again, by the community. This is foam. This is not normal. This shouldn't be in a river anywhere, let alone in the middle of the community. And this much foam, you can see in the bottom right-hand corner, you can see the foam from space. That's a lot of foam. That's PFAS, that's PFOS, that's heavy metals, that's a lot of industrial waste. This has been shown in other studies. We are now doing the measurements ourselves because for some reason nobody had really measured the water, but we are at this point as well. But this foam is not something that's normal. It should not be there. It should not be in the middle of the community. Next slide, please. So this is just a zoomed in view of what the foam looks like, and I'll show you plenty of foam by the end of the talk. But this is a Saturn Boulevard hotspot, and what leads to that foam is that there's a waterfall that goes in, and that plunging and those bubbles lead to this massive amount of foam. This foam, when we were just sampling in September of this year, got 10 feet deep. We couldn't even get to the river to sample the water because the foam was so deep. Okay, next slide, please. So what we've been doing for the last year, but intensively in September of 2024, and then again, we just finished in September of 2025, is we do what we call paired air water sampling. So we sample the water in the river and the ocean, as well as in the air. And what we're looking at is what gets out. Which pollution? Not all pollution makes it into, thank goodness, not all the pollution makes it into the air. So we're really interested in what does get into the air. So my group has been running all over the region doing this sampling. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is the quick version of the story. Basically, September 1st, 2024, we started sampling in Nestor. Right, it's like half a mile from the hotspot. And so basically what you see in red is hydrogen sulfide. It's a toxic gas. And typical urban levels, just to calibrate you, are less than 1 part per billion. What you see is at night, each of those spikes is at night. It's not there during the day. That's really important, and I'll come back to that. But basically at night, the concentrations got over 4,000 ppb. That's 4,000 times higher than any other urban area. So, this is a toxic nerve gas. And so we became concerned. Coupling this with the community's voices, we realized something needed to be done. So next, click. September 5th, we have a task force that Paloma Mayor, at the time, Mayor Aguirre had assembled, and we talked to Human Health Services, and we said we were worried, and this was on September 5th. Next, click. Nothing was done, so Mayor Aguirre called a press conference with our data. Again, I'm a scientist. I normally publish my results, but this seemed to be a pretty serious emergency. So we shared our data early to get out the fact that the community wasn't imagining things, that there really were incredibly high levels of this gas that is incredibly corrosive that people were breathing. And so basically, next click. That was the 9th. On the 10th, the river stopped. And so our hypothesis at this time was it must be the turbulence. It must be the bubbles. I study bubbles for a living for 30 years. It's kind of crazy. I like bubbles. But basically, we thought it must be the turbulence at that site because it was just so much higher there than anywhere else. We were running all around with a mobile van and everything trying to figure it out. So what happens when they turn it off? The turbulence goes away. So from a scientific perspective, this is the best experiment in the world. Like, I couldn't have picked it better. So the question is, if we were correct that it was the turbulence and the turbulence went away, what should happen to the hydrogen sulfide levels? Next click. Voila. So basically, it was the turbulence, and the levels got much lower. They're still higher than they should be, but this is what we published in Science at the end of August. If you go to the next slide, please. The other thing that was, I think, incredibly rewarding to me from a scientific perspective and just a person was that we were able to back up what the community had been saying. This shows the hydrogen sulfide levels as well as the odor complaints plotted on the same figure. And what you see is they track each other amazingly well. The Pearson coefficient is 0.92. One would be perfect. So what this tells us is that the community wasn't imagining things and that this was, basically they were the sensors and we should have been listening to them. But the community, some people said, if you tell the community they're going to be afraid. They weren't afraid. They were relieved to know that they weren't imagining things. And so this was an amazing correlation between humans and actually science that was very, I don't think anything like this has ever been shown before for water pollution. Next slide, please. So we showed that it spreads. So one of the things I hoped was that it would wake up more of San Diego County. And then basically we do air dispersion modeling and we can show that the air travels all the way to North County. So in fact, it is hitting all of San Diego County. And this is work we're doing with Will Porter at UC Riverside. So this is also in the paper if you're interested in more details. Next slide, please. The other thing we did was we looked at other gases. Hydrogen sulfide we kind of get hung up on because it's a toxic nerve gas. So, of course it's bad, but we've now, I think, measured over 1,700 different gases getting out of that river. Like we never expected that. No one expected that. But what you see here is 100%. So if it was 100%, it would mean that when they diverted the river, that 100% of those compounds went away. And this is just one set of compounds that are listed along the bottom. The point I want to make is that basically a lot of the toxic compounds really were removed also when that river was diverted, when the wastewater, I should say, was diverted. And so next slide, please. So where are we now? This is the last year. I think this is the longest time series in the history of time on hydrogen sulfide. I mean, only a geeky scientist would be excited to see this, but yeah, this is a year-long data series with measurements made every minute, 24/7 for a year. And what you see is you can see the initial spike, how big it was. That's the 4,000. You can see the very beginning. Then the wastewater diversion happened, and then everything got less. Still too high. The carb level and the OEHHA level is 30 ppb, so we're still above that. But you can see the box at the very end, which is September, and you can see that things are much, much lower. And this is really important, as one of the callers said, the ozone bubbling experiment. The H2S levels are at an all-time low since we started making measurements, before they started adding the bubbles. Okay, next. So this just shows, puts it a little bit more in regulatory, I guess, perspective, where it shows the 30 ppb and the 7 ppb. And you can see in the inset that it's above the 7. And the 7 ppb is the average over an entire year, which we now have. And we just calculated it before I came here, and it's about 5 times higher than it should be for chronic exposure. So there's acute exposure, there's chronic, and we're most worried right now about chronic. But keep in mind, that's only for hydrogen sulfide. What about all the other gases? You're not just inhaling hydrogen sulfide. So we have some work to do to figure out the health effects. Next slide, please. So this is kind of messy, but again, I stared at it enough that it looks good to me. But basically it just shows you the time is on the y-axis, and the whole year is on the x-axis. And what you can see is during the day, this is hydrogen sulfide again. And during the day, it's changed. First of all, it's changed. Look to the right. Look how much more blue there is. So the work that they've been doing and, basically processing more or diverting it more is having an effect. But you also see the point that it's the colors are at the top and the bottom. That's nighttime. So during the day, you just don't see as much. And the window where you don't see as much has gotten wider, which is good news. So progress has been made. I think that is a good point to make. We still want to see more, but this is a direct result of APCD working with scientists, working with human health services. So it is the perfect, and the community. I can't forget the community. So we all came together, and this in 1 year is a pretty powerful sort of result. But we're not done. Next slide, please. So again, this is kind of messy, but I just want to make the point. A couple of points here. Again, this is looking at, has it gotten really better, and comparing it to those air quality standards. I guess what I would say is if you click twice, 1, 2, 1, 2, there we go. Those are the average values back in September and now. Compared to, if you look at the vertical lines, there's the 7. So we're right at the 7. And so if you look on the right, that's the number of total hours that people were being exposed to hydrogen sulfide levels above the air quality standard. And again, you can see it's gone from a lot. Happens a little funny stuff happen in April and May, but then it's low now. Next slide, please. One point I want to make, this is daytime. So same plot, but now just only looking at nighttime. I think this is, nighttime, sorry, this is nighttime. So I'm going to just have you flip. Again, I'm not going to dwell on this too much other than to make the point. If you look at this, memorize the, sort of imprint in your brain the figure on the right. Now click one more time. That's day. Big difference. The reason I want to show this is because this shows you the importance of air filters in your home when you're sleeping. Your maximum exposure time is when you're in your house. So even though people are sort of saying, it doesn't give us the whole coverage all day long. And I think that was a reason for a lot of that I was told why people weren't taking it up. Well, I'm outside. Well, you're usually, on average, most people are in their house 90% of the time. So if we get these in schools, if we get these in long care facilities, people that are compromised, they are going to be protected from the highest levels at night. So this filtration program is very, very important. Next slide, please. So what about the other gases? This just, again, sums up all of them and shows you that they all go down with the diversion. That's red. But what you see is that some kind of pop back up again. And those are probably the sewage is being diverted, but there's still industrial waste and some sewage coming through. And so even with the wastewater staying in Mexico, we are still seeing, significant levels of volatile, these gases, many of which are also toxic. And here's the kicker, they don't smell. So, the H2S was not good because it stinks like rotten eggs, but it makes you get away. You don't want to just hang out there. Now I go there and in like 15 minutes, it smells so much better. You kind of want to hang out. It's a beautiful place, but now I get a headache. And so there's still stuff that's in the air. Next slide. I won't go into this. It's just more for APCD folks, but we can talk more about it. I get asked about toxicity a lot. And this just shows, what happened with river diversion and specific other compounds in more detail beyond hydrogen sulfide. And again, I'm just going to point out we have this. We're digging deeply into it. I have to repeat again, though, the hard part is that this is looking at toxicity of one compound at a time. And that is not what people are being exposed to. People are being exposed to this cocktail. And we don't know what the health effects are because it would be inhumane to do a study in the lab, although sadly, I think we're doing it in the real world on people that are living there. Next slide, please. So what about other gases? I know APCD thinks about this. So putting it in, a lot of these gases aren't things that APCD, toxic gases, yes, but other gases, no. But PM, particulate matter, there's a haze always out over the ocean in the afternoon. We've linked that to the river. So particulate matter is going up as you move towards the river. On the top left, you see during the day. On the right, you see as you go further inland, the PM climbs. And it shows also in the top right, the red is PM. It falls in the daytime too, just like hydrogen sulfide. But all of those gases end up reacting in the soup and making new particles, which contribute to PM pollution. Just another effect. And now we're looking at its effect on ozone as well. So the standard pollutants that you do care about are being affected by the pollution coming out of this river. Next slide, please. So it's the second most endangered river in the US. This foam is not normal. You can see it up in the top left when my students are collecting it. Next slide, please. One of the places you can find similar water is the Yamuna River in India. So there are other places in the world, and it's the same combination of sewage and industrial waste. And so people from India are talking to us about how we can work together to try and figure this out, because water pollution is a problem everywhere in the world. Next slide, please. So we continue to do sampling day and night. This is our measurements that we just completed in September. Next slide, please. And this is kind of a messy one, but I figured I would throw it in there. This is about the ozone bubbling experiment. I have been quoted in the paper as expressing concern. I am, because there are thousands of different unknown chemicals in that river. And to take a highly reactive gas like ozone and bubble it, their goal is to clean up the river. But where do you think the chemicals end up if the river is clean? They don't just disappear. They do from the water, but they end up in the air or the sediment. So has it worked? I don't know. They wouldn't let us near their site. They still haven't. So we just did measurements in the area, like nearby at Saturn. And what you see is it's kind of like they turned on, they turned off because of the rains. The take home is basically there is no change in hydrogen sulfide during the same atmospheric conditions. We look at boundary layer height, we make sure that we're comparing apples with apples. There hasn't been a change in hydrogen sulfide levels with the ozone bubbles. But what we're also looking for is what other gases, potentially toxic gases, are now being emitted into the air, and are those things that we can detect? And so we are still concerned with that. Next slide, please. So progress, there's signs up, and our paper's published. And so, this is just I think it's a wonderful example of what can happen when everybody works together, on a project. And so this is at the Saturn site and along the river. So that's fast action. I mean, the county, ABCD, everybody should be very proud of this. Next slide. There's been many changes. There's the air filter program. There's the monitoring now being done by APCD, which I guess is going to be a bit of a discussion after I'm done. There's a lot of positives that have come out in a relatively short period of time, but we're still not there yet. Next slide, please. The other thing we are doing is for 3 years, we've had this youth climate advisors. We work with Del Mar High School, and I'm a great teacher that's there. And the kids are the advocates. They talk about to the community. They talk to people about how it's affecting them. And so the kind of cool development, they won the San Diego Port Authority Award. They're just amazing. And we find that, us talking to the parents versus them talking to the parents, they're more effective than we are. Exciting announcement for this year. I mentioned to Paula recently, if you go to the next click, we're going to put air filters, we're going to have them build their own air filters, cheap air filters, like $100 a piece. And we're going to have them help the community put them into their homes and their schools and try and show the importance of indoor air quality. So they're going to be advocates for clean indoor air. There was just a big summit at the UN in New York City on this very topic. Next slide, please. So I just want to say thank you to all of you, also my group. Many members, many people have worked with us. The data that I showed today are all shown here, as well as funding. I get asked a lot, how do we keep going? It's getting harder and harder because NSF and NOAA we can't go to for any more funding. Scott Peters was great and helped us get money that allowed us to pivot and do these measurements and expand ourselves, but those are all going away. And so the question is, what next? We've been lucky enough to have philanthropy, but it's not going to last forever. So we're just hoping, keeping our fingers crossed that things get resolved soon at the government level. Okay, next. I just want to mention, we have an airborne institute that's looking at this. This is through the philanthropy. So if people are interested, happy to talk about that more. If you go to the next slide. I'm just going to end here. I didn't talk about it, but I just want you to be aware. There is smell, there's toxicity, there is odor, abundance. There's all these ways you can look at all these other gases that are there in this messy mix, right? And so we had an EV there, and I know APCD is getting one, so I hope we get to borrow it sometimes. But basically, we looked all over the region at different VOCs and what people are being exposed to as a function of day and night. And so again, depending on what you care about, is it the smell? Next one is the smell. And I'll stop, I think, at this one. Yeah, smell. There's smell. Completely different pattern where the smells are. So what gives you smell versus what gives you certain health effects, these are variable. And so we have been doing a lot of work. This is led by UT Texas and in Austin. And they've been looking at these data to try and understand. Again, our next thing we have to do is start. We've got plenty of observations. We know enough to act, as has been done. But we really need to start connecting it with the health effects and figure out how to fix this once and for all. And I'll stop there. Thank you.
Brady, thank you so much for being here and for all of your work in this last year. I'm sure some of our other members have comments, questions, but all your due diligence, your passion, your drive, I got to say that personally because I didn't know so much of this last year when this started happening, and so you took the time to educate me. Even your presentation, it's very complex.
Yeah.
But I really appreciate how you break it down. I think our members still have some questions, and I do, but I really appreciate your drive, your work, and especially to our ABCD staff, our ABCO, Ms. Forbes, thank you for your leadership and our staff's dedication. I mean it from the bottom of my heart when I say that out of all the public agencies, I think our agency has been the most effective, the most proactive, and taking the most leadership. And that's not to criticize anyone else. That's just to hopefully be proud of who we are and the work and the effort and the sacrifice that we've done to get to this point. And I think that's continuing to grow. Really appreciate the county being such strong partners with us as well on the public health side of it and backing up the science. So just really appreciate everyone who's been involved with this. So that'll go ahead and go to, actually public comment, right?
We have received one request to speak on this item. Truth, you have 3 minutes to address the board. Please begin by stating your name for the record. You can use the timer on the
Hey there,
screen.
Truth. Got it. Combined with the fear mongering over bubbles and secret letters, along with a special meeting on purifiers, I'm concerned APCD may be becoming the Paloma Prather circus show rather than an agency who mitigates all air quality impacts. Prather is the director of 2 research centers, so has no financial stake in the county or APCD doing more studies, right? Got it. The air monitors have been very useful, while studies telling us well-known health effects are not. There's well-documented information on hydrogen sulfide going back to at least the 1970s. Why I have to question the alleged science. SARS-CoV-2 in the water, 16S RNA gene amplicon sequencing, and our changing climate brings more pollution events. Last I checked, Mexico's bringing the sewage, not the climate. Then there's the toxic tracer dye thrown into this research experiment using benzoylecgonine, a cocaine metabolite. So you guys are putting a main component of cocaine into our waters and air. Feel free to correct me on that. Yet admitted that cocaine's transformation pathways and aerosols are not yet known. So talk about using Imperial Beach residents as guinea pigs. Acid clean buckets and bottles were used, and acid sounds like another contaminant. Then there were no aerosol samples taken under Hollister Bridge. Why not? This item claims dry season flows unexpectedly surge. No, they didn't. 2023 saw Mexico's treatment plant break. Okay? Granados approving her own research article, conflict of interest. The Granados article refers to a small chemical spill in Carson. The difference is free trade isn't involved. The historical reason this sewage has not been resolved for 90 years is because it's about money. The 1994 North American Free Trade Agreement removed tariffs on imported goods from Mexico, which incentivized mega corporations to move their factories and jobs to Mexico. The county, who obviously got a heads up on that deal, in 1993 approved the Otay Mesa East Pacific Plan, which had a goal of turning the area into a warehousing hub with yet another border crossing. Not a single trader ever considered that their greed would create more sewage for Imperial Beach. And there were not even accountability measures on Mexico written into GATT, NAFTA, the USMCA, or even the EPA's new plan. We don't need cronies constantly studying the crap to sell us crap. We already know what it causes, and we know how the littoral cell moves the waves in a circle from IB to Coronado back to IB. When is our South Bay ocean outfall going to stop being used as Mexico's sewage dumping ground? If anything, study the sea spray directly at the outfall. I'd also like to know, what are the hydrogen sulfide numbers? Remember that from last year? And present all results to Mexico. They only care when the federal and state government make them care. And I want to hear Paloma say again that she doesn't care what Mexico does with their unearned portion of the future Otay Mesa East border crossing. Come on, let's hear her opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes public testimony on this item.
All right, do we have any members that wish to speak? And do we have a member Kimberly still on?
No.
No. Is she on? Go back. So, Member Gloria, did I see motion? Yes, Member Gloria, and then I see Vice Chair Perfect Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. For the presentation. Yeah, this is extremely complex stuff, right? And emotions are extremely high, rightly so. People live that up while this smell issue is more recent. The pollution's been going on for decades. I so appreciate you're very passionate, but a science-based approach to help people like all of us here and the general public to understand this issue better. It's just very helpful in the midst of understanding all the frustration and anger and complexity of the issue. Thank you for taking the time to respond to us and by extension, the dozens of people who may watch this meeting. That's a joke. That's some levity, right? They're on here. But I truly appreciate it. I'm not a science person. I was a history major, and you can imagine how I did in science class, but to make it so relatable in a relatively short amount of time, deeply appreciate it. I want to just draw attention a sign that you identified. The city was happy to partner with the county of San Diego on the establishment of those signs. Those who may not know, the ownership of the land to the river valley is a patchwork of city, county, private, federal. There's a host of different property owners. So it does require even more, as another layer of complexity requires for participation. And was pleased to be able to work with Supervisor Aguirre to install those. And we're continuing to work collaboratively on the foaming area. That outfall, city owns the street, the Navy owns the property. Again, nothing's easy around here. But to work with Supervisor Aguirre to study what would be the engineering solution to that particular challenge. Re-engineering and elimination of that space there. Obviously in concert with property owners and businesses through the area that do need access to the properties, the ability to get in and out of the area, and at the same time needing to address this environmental catastrophe. I just wanted for the board's awareness, the public, and of course staff to understand those ongoing efforts that are happening in small ways like the signs, to larger ways to engineering, which you all know me, I talk fast because I'm impatient, and I like to get things done quickly. Naturally working in an ecologically diverse environment with multiple ownerships, none of this is going to be fast. But I know the Supervisor Geary is 1,000% committed to solving this issue. I'm happy, the city, Councilman Campbell and I, happy to support that effort. I know cities that are also affected, like Coronado, National City, are all in as well. So again, appreciate you bringing some light to this issue. I think it does bear repeating. Residents are not crazy; they're not making this up. It's not in their head, and there's a lot of value in that, and we're confirming, affirming what they have been saying. And I'm glad to be a part of an organization. This organization has been leading a lot of the response through their purifiers program, as well as a host of other things. And look forward to this group continues to engage. Obviously, we have future agenda items here on this agenda. I'm not sure on future, but a lot of great information. Appreciate you agendizing this, Mr. Chairman. And Dr. Baker, please continue the great work.
Thank you.
Vice Chair.
Hi, I just wanted to thank you for coming today and presenting this information to the board. I did read your article in Science and was very proud of the work that you all did and the way that information was presented. I think it's important. There's a lot of information, a lot of numbers that were thrown to the governing board and to the public. I think it's important to note one of the things that you stated was that these are compounded, what's the word choice I'm looking for? It's not just in one time slot. All the exposures are compounded one after another on these communities, especially the community that is closest to where this wastewater is. But you also briefly made a comment about how these pollutants are being aerosolized. And I think it's important, and you alluded to it, but it was just a brief mention that it is going up the coast. So this is not just something that the people of South Bay are breathing in. This is something that constituents of Coronado, constituents of San Diego, constituents of North County, all of us are breathing in, especially I would imagine in that coastal area, depending on breeze, atmospheric pressure, our marine layer, that some of that is shifting inland. Is that correct?
Yeah. So that's another one. 20 minutes, we can't get it all in, but I will say that we have another thing that we're looking at right now, which is we're starting to realize that, there's these smell events in North County, and people said, oh, the truth is smell can't travel that far through the air, but it can through the water. So what we now think is happening is that it's hiding, if you will, in the water, and then it gets north, and then it pops up, and then it's coming out. And so we're writing a paper about that right now. We're working on it using buoy data. I never thought I'd be using buoy data, but we are. And it's letting us trace it and show that, yes, it could, we don't know how far north it goes. I mean, the water, it's not that it's staying like a lot of people, the models that are being used for the ocean are all focusing on the surf zone. So that's where people are really focused. Coronado, and then it turns, no, it goes out. And then it can come back in, right? And so that's what we're trying to understand now by we're actually having to, again, combine oceanographic models between if you use different ones for the surf versus, I never thought I'd learn about all this, but the point is, your point is very accurate that, the only way smell can get from there to north is in the water and then pops up, it gets blown over all of that, sort of northern region. Right now, as I said, we're sampling as far north as we can go. And looking at the buoy data all along the California coast, where all the outfalls are. Because remember, there's other outfalls, right? And so we're trying to understand the impact because people say, oh, the outfalls, it's deep, but it surfaces, and people have shown that too. And so, yeah, it's a can of worms. I try not to, I didn't go there because I was already presenting. She said I fleetingly went over it. And again, I'm happy to talk with anybody, but there's no question that people all over San Diego County are being impacted by this pollution.
Sorry, just one other comment. I think the other thing that's important, because you mentioned the air filters.
Yes.
And the students doing the air filters. A lot of San Diego, especially the coastal regions, don't tend to have HVAC systems. The windows are open. And so, I don't know if you looked into this, how is that affecting how would that affect the air filters and stuff if people are doing them with open windows to keep our houses full at night?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's very seasonal, right? Your answer depends, right? And for sure, we've been looking at sort of the dust in people's homes and what they're being put indoor. We've been comparing indoor outdoor in the South Bay, and your indoor and outdoor almost look the same because they have such good they have the doors open, as you say. So that will have to be, factored in. What do you do? At least the point is that those filters, they cost less than $100 a piece and they can about 15 minutes. So they're affordable for, much more affordable. And you can just put different types of filters on them and they will work. They will filter like what I have been telling people is, for me, what we have in our house is we have them in our bedroom. And even with the windows open, they will filter the air near your bed really well. The whole house, it's going to have a hard time because as you said, you're absolutely right. But your bedroom, they will definitely filter where you're sleeping. And that is the most, I urge everybody to think about that. And a lot of people in South Bay have been asking us, their kids are crying, we're having problems because you just get blasted with it. We got blasted with it, right? And so where do you put your kids? So I would protect kids, right? I'd protect older, I'd make sure those rooms are good. And, as I say, $100 each, you build your own. Then you can start thinking about different rooms too, right? So you have what I call safe rooms, rooms where you can know the air is clean. And at least during that time, I realize it's not 24 hours a day, but you can't let perfection be the enemy, right? So.
I actually have a follow-up question. Thank you. This is so helpful. I also just really appreciate all the research and diligence. Just talking the air purifier question. So what would you recommend if you have to, put someone to prioritize, you were going to kind of rank order? Would it be better to have make sure everybody has at least one air purifier, and if so, should it be in their bedroom, or just sort of how do you think about prioritization? Obviously given that you kind of can't do everything all at once. So how do you prioritize? Is it one in the living room? Is it, not the living room, one in the bedroom? Is it just 4 in a few houses that are close to the Saturn Boulevard? Conceptually, how do we best prioritize?
Yeah, that's what we're going to work on with the kids. So they're going to be talking to the community and asking these kinds of questions, right? Because it's not just the river. We also see, I left that out, but we see it come out of, along the coast too, right? And so the river, though, is where we see the most of the sort of H2S coming out. But yeah, I mean, one of the things I told people, they're like, I had 2, so where do I put it? The Corsi box you pick, it's light as a feather. I move it into my bedroom when I'm sleeping.
That makes sense.
You don't have to leave it. They're not cumbersome to move at all.
So basically, make sure you sleep with it.
Sure.
If you're hanging out, having family time in the living room, bring it with you.
Yep. And I put it in schools because I would love to see this region, the South Bay region, have the healthiest air in schools. You'll knock back COVID, you'll knock back influenza, you'll knock back absenteeism with these same filters. So you get multiple benefits. It's in schools. And so that's what I'm hoping. And I'm working with people who are putting them in the Texas school system right now. And we're talking about how could we do that? Is there interest? But I would love to do it because I think we can show
Have
that.
you been in any conversations with the school districts? Obviously,
Yeah.
that's not you.
Yeah, Mar Vista. Yeah, we're working through Mar Vista, which is part of Sweetwater? Yeah, Sweetwater. So we have an IRB through Sweetwater. So that's who we would build first.
And which of the schools do you think are the highest priority?
The ones closest to the river. And there's a lot of those, right? Yeah. So I have a map. I forget how many are
Do you know
within.
which school district?
That's Sweetwater. Yeah,
Sweetwater, I think South Bay Unified.
maybe, yeah. So, yeah, it'll be kind of an experiment, but I think, why not turn lemons to lemonade and give people clean indoor air like we should have anyway?
Thank you, member Foster, member, and member Sigler, Granados.
Just really quickly, thank you, Kim. That was great. I always learn every time I listen to you talk. And I think that I just wanted to bring up the point that I really appreciate this conversation and this information because it really does show, especially those nighttime numbers, and it's directly linked to releases also in the river as well. And so when you see that the flows are up at night, the wind is down, the hydrogen sulfide levels are up, and even right now, though they've dropped, they're still above where we would like for them to be. And so again, I reiterate that nighttime importance when people are sleeping. And just as Kim stated, that's when you're deep breathing, kids are low to the ground. This is when a lot of people are being exposed, and hence the importance of having air filters in the bedrooms. And that's what we've been talking about a lot, is how many should we have. However many people you have sleeping in a room, at least everybody in that room probably should have one. And I just also lastly wanted to say, we've been calling this one of the largest environmental justice issues in the country at this time, because this community is also being impacted by a lot of other issues. It's a working class, lower income community, also the largest border crossing in the world. And so we're talking about these gases at night, but guess what's also happening during the daytime? We also have a lot of particulate matter from all of the congestion border crossing. And so right where you see this river nestled through this community is also where you have a lot of other toxic air pollution happening. And so it's just compounded on compounds. So I'm really grateful for the work that we're doing. And this just reemphasizes the need for air filters for every room, because we got daytime pollution and now we have nighttime pollution. So it's just a really important issue. And I appreciate all the work that this board has been doing to help with that. So thank you.
Thank you. Any last comments from staff or board members? All right, Dr. thanks so much for the presentation. We are moving on to item D3, the Tijuana River Valley Sewage Emergency Assessment of the Hydrogen Sulfide Monitoring Network. And with that, I think that is okay. Right. Oh, and then clerk, can you go ahead and provide the public testimony announcement?
Thank you, Chair Bush. I would note for the record that per the governing board administrative code, the submission period is closed for request to speak on this item. All public testimony will be heard at the conclusion of the staff presentation.
Good afternoon. My name is Domingo Vigil, Deputy Director with the San Diego County Air Pollution Control District. With me is Dr. David Soderman, Chief of our Monitoring and Technical Services Division. On August 14, 2025, the SDAPCD Governing Board directed the Air Pollution Control Officer to explore the possibility of expanding hydrogen sulfide monitoring or H2S monitoring in the Tijuana River Valley region, and return to this public hearing update at the October 9, 2025 regular meeting. This item will provide the board with these updates as well as staff recommendations for enhancement of the H2S monitoring network. I will now turn it over to my colleague, Dr. David Soderman, to continue the presentation.
Thank you. Next slide, please. I would like to start by providing some background information on how our current hydrogen sulfide network sites were selected. In February 2022, the California Air Resources Board accepted in SDAPCD's 2018 nomination to include the International Border Community into the state's Community Air Protection Program. The official boundaries for the International Border Community for this program are outlined in red on the map shown here. This program directs CARB and APCD to improve air quality in communities disproportionately impacted by pollution. This program focuses on community-driven targeted actions like developing local air monitoring plans, implementing emission reduction strategies, and deploying cleaner technologies to protect public health and achieve environmental justice. In April 2022, we hosted the first of the monthly Community Steering Committee meetings. Throughout the rest of that year, the steering committee discussed their air quality concerns, and we collaborated on 2 documents: the Community Air Monitoring Plan and the Community Emissions Reduction Plan. Throughout these meetings, one of the major concerns of the community was the odors emanating from the TJ River Valley impacting their health and their quality of life. Given this concern from the community and knowing that developing monitoring sites can be a resource-intense and lengthy process, SDAPCD decided that solar-powered sensors was the quickest way to get hydrogen sulfide instruments into the community to track the hydrogen sulfide. Next slide. In the spring of 2022, SDAPCD applied for and was awarded an EPA grant to buy hydrogen sulfide sensors. By October of 2023, we procured 6 AQMS H2S sensor pods and deployed them to our monitoring station in San Ysidro. During that time and throughout the spring of 2024, SDAPCD engaged with the City of Vero Beach, City of San Diego, Port of San Diego, County of San Diego, and the International Boundary Water Commission in discussions on memorandums of understandings or MOUs to place the hydrogen sulfide sensors on their properties located in and around the TJ River Valley. These sites were chosen based on the numerous meetings with residents throughout various meeting forums, as well as our odor complaint map. During the spring and early summer of 2024, we solicited and procured a TeleMT-101 hydrogen sulfide analyzer to better understand the accuracy and precision of the H2S sensors. In August of 2024, we were able to finalize most of our MOUs and deploy the hydrogen sulfide sensors to various locations in and around the TJ River Valley. In early September 2024, a team of researchers from UCSD and SDSU are here with us today, documented very high levels of hydrogen sulfide in the community of Nestor. Shortly thereafter, Mexico was able to turn on the PV pump to divert a significant amount of flow from the TJ River, which in turn caused the hydrogen sulfide levels to drop. During this time, APCD was able to get our sister agency, the South Coast Air Quality Management District, to deploy their mobile hydrogen sulfide monitoring vehicle to take some measurements in our area. We also deployed our T101 analyzer to San Ysidro, and we made the decision to transition our H2S network from sensors to research-grade analyzers that can provide more precise H2S concentrations and site them in strategic locations in the community. Given the urgency of deploying these monitoring resources, we partnered with South Coast AQMD and the California Air Resources Board to provide our hydrogen sulfide analyzers that we can deploy till such time that we are able to cure our own. Next slide. In October, we are able to repurpose one of our mobile laboratory vehicles and set up South Coast T101 analyzer at the Berry Elementary School in the community of Nestor. In November, SDAPCD published our hydrogen sulfide dashboard, which displays the hydrogen sulfide data, and in collaboration with the county's Public Health Department, California Department of Public Health, EPA, CDC, ASTDR, the hydrogen sulfide guidance document was released. By late December, we were able to deploy CARB's T101 analyzer to the Vero Beach Fire Station. That same month, EPA allowed us to use our Inflation Reduction Act grant to support the H2S program, which enabled us to procure our own T101 analyzers and other necessary equipment to support our hydrogen sulfide network in San Ysidro, Nestor, and in Vero Beach. In addition, the County of San Diego awarded us a grant to procure a mobile H2S platform that allowed us to conduct mobile hydrogen sulfide monitoring. We are currently working with County Fleet Services to outfit the mobile unit as necessary. In 2025, we have been procuring the necessary equipment, maintaining the existing equipment, and seeking opportunities to fund this program. This summer, we were awarded an EPA grant to help support some of the costs to run this program this fiscal year. We will continue seeking funding opportunities to continue to run this program in future years. Next slide. This map indicates the current location of our 3 hydrogen sulfide monitoring stations. Fire station in San Ysidro is about 3/4 of a mile from the Tijuana River. Berry Elementary School is approximately half a mile away from the river and the identified hotspot. The fire station in Imperial Beach is about a mile from the ocean, about a mile from the river, and about a half a mile from the prairie. I would like to point out that the Berry Elementary School was meant to be a temporary monitor location. There are many tall buildings in the school property which can influence air patterns in the area. While this site was an excellent location to quickly get a monitoring site near the hotspot, it is not viable as a long-term monitoring location. Next. As we assess the monitoring network, we noticed in general that the San Ysidro location reported lower levels of hydrogen sulfide than the other two sites. This site displays the maximum 1 hour value recorded from each site. The San Ysidro Fire Station's highest 1 hour value is 52 parts per billion, while the highest 1 hour value at Berry Elementary School was 500 parts per billion, and at the Imperial Beach Fire Station was 264 parts per billion. San Ysidro has the lowest maximum 1 hour reading of all sites by a considerable amount. Because it's considerably lower than the other two sites, it raises some questions. Is this a good site for hydrogen sulfide monitoring? Does this site provide added value? Should this monitor be moved to a different location? Next slide, please. To help answer this question, we calculated in each calendar quarter, what % of the days have at least 1 hour in that day that exceeds 30 parts per billion. The results are shown in this table in bold. The number in parentheses is the % of days within that time period that has the San Ysidro collected data from every single day in October through December 2024, but did not have a single hour in which the H2S levels exceeded 30 parts per billion. On the other hand, Berry had 32% of its days in which there was at least 1 hour that had a value above 30 parts per billion at the same time period. That is, out of the 84 days in which we collected data at Berry Elementary School from October through December, 27 days exceeded H2S levels of 30 parts per billion at least once during that day. While the San Ysidro location only had about a month of data in the beginning of 2025, it also has 0 instances in which it exceeded 30 parts per billion. However, during the same 1 month time period, the other two sites had multiple exceedances. The data here suggests that Berry Elementary School is the most important site, followed by the Imperial Beach Fire Station site, then the San Ysidro site. Next slide, please. Looking at our complaint data from the last 3 years, we see more air quality complaints coming from Imperial Beach and Nestor communities than from the San Ysidro community, which tracks with our H2S concentration. This supports that the San Ysidro site is the third most important hydrogen sulfides monitoring site behind Nestor and Imperial Beach. Next slide. Our proposal would be to relocate the Nestor hotspot monitoring site from Berry Elementary School to the intersection of Tremaine Way and Leon Avenue. This site is better suited for long-term sampling, as there are very few obstacles like buildings and tall trees in the area. This proposed property is owned by the city of San Diego, and we have been working with city staff already to develop an MOU, which is nearly complete, to host our monitoring site. It is important to note that this proposed site development would allow us to host collaborators with other agencies and research institutions at this location, something that the Berry Elementary School is not capable of. We also have a verbal agreement with the Port of San Diego to develop a small monitoring location in their parking lot located at Elwood Avenue and Seacoast Drive in Imperial Beach. This site would be important to capture any hydrogen sulfide odors that emanate from the ocean. This will be important during the summer months when the ocean currents can bring untreated sewage dumped into the ocean in Mexico to the northern coastal communities. The Imperial Beach Fire Station would stay as is, and the San Ysidro Station would operate until the beach site is fully developed. This proposal has been shared with outside experts, including Professor Prather, who presented here earlier, and they support that plan. Next slide, please. This map indicates the future locations of our 3 hydrogen sulfide monitoring stations. The new hotspot monitoring site in Nestor, located at the intersection of Tremaine Way and Leon Avenue, is less than a half a mile away from the river and the identified hotspot. This location is closer to these areas than our current monitoring site in Nestor at Prather Elementary. The Imperial Beach location is about 1/10 of a mile away from the beach. And as a reminder, the Imperial Beach Fire Station is about a mile from the ocean, a mile from the river, and a half a mile from the estuary. Next slide, please. Establishing a monitoring site is unfortunately not a quick process. The first step is identifying what are the goals of the monitoring site and what are the siting requirements and needs. After scouting and identifying potential locations, memorandum of understanding with the property owner needs to be established. Next, the site needs to be developed, which includes writing up a detailed scope of work, working with the county's Department of Purchasing and Contracting to establish a contract with the vendor. The contractor must then develop the site, including obtaining the necessary permits from the city and SDG&E, actual improvements to the property, such as preparing the ground, installing fencing and power, and then passing all necessary inspections. Once the site has been set up, then APCD staff needs to install temperature controlled enclosures, data loggers, and other supporting equipment and calibrate the analyzers. This entire process takes at least 1 year to accomplish from start to finish. Depending upon the complexity of the site and the number of pollutants to be measured, the cost of establishing monitoring site ranges from $275,000 to about $700,000. This cost does not include staff time associated with the work in the development of the site or to run the monitoring program once the site is established. Next slide, please. Now an update on the mobile hydrogen sulfide monitoring vehicle. The all-electric SUV has been procured and delivered. The hydrogen sulfide analyzer has also been procured and delivered to our office. The manufacturer will be on site at the end of this month to install and train the staff on its operation. We are working with the county's Department of General Services Fleet Division to solicit a vendor to outfit the SUV so that the analyzer can be installed. The scope of work has been written and Fleet is actively reaching out to various outfitting vendors. Once a vendor is selected, we'll get an estimate for cost and timeline to complete this project. Next slide, please. Staff recommendations include, within the community of Nestor, move the hotspot monitoring site from Berry Elementary School to the intersection of Leon Avenue and Tremaine Way with expanded capacity for collaboration. And as resources become available, move the monitoring site in San Ysidro to a site closer to the coast in Imperial Beach. That concludes our presentation, and we'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you, staff. And then before we move on to public comment, do any board members have technical questions for staff? All right, seeing none for now, let's go ahead, Clark.
Thank you. We've received one request to speak. Truth, you'll have 3 minutes to address the board. Please begin by stating your name for the record.
Hi there, it's Truth. The International Border Community Steering Committee has not reflected the communities affected by Mexico sewage. I've watched a couple of meetings. When they talk about giving Mexico money to not burn tires, they do not speak for the kind of permanent solutions the residents of Imperial Beach have been demanding. So you wouldn't need air purifiers or air monitors. I'd like to know how APCD is going to expand air monitoring when what is currently there doesn't seem to be working or working accurately. Specifically, I question the low results on the current monitor in Imperial Beach. And I still ask, what about the sensor and the Tijuana estuary? Is that a monitor that I've been seeing? It's at the end of Seacoast. It's a critical area. It's not along the trail parallel to Imperial Beach Boulevard. So I would ask that you put one somewhere around there. Although maybe Elkwood is good enough. How would solar powered sensors work during the non-sunny rainy seasons? And no, I don't think there should be a sensor at the IBWC treatment plant. That feels like it would give inaccurate numbers. Maybe you could ask Mexico to put one at their plant, which is only working 99%. At the campground, maybe, why not? Other than to justify closing it, to match the unjustified closing of the community gardens, moving a monitor from Berry Elementary to Leon Avenue and Tremaine Way. Thanks for giving the explanation on why that random empty area, because I was really questioning that. And yes, there should definitely be a monitor somewhere near the IB pier, because the numbers have been higher near the pier. Thanks to our government and Mexico using the South Bay Ocean Outfall as a sewage dumping ground. You could even put a monitor right there at the Ocean Outfall. You could see for yourself. There should also be an air monitor right at the southern border to show us the GHGs and emissions coming from the cars from Mexico that are not compliant with California emission standards. There's another form of contamination that's going on every single day that no one's addressing. And for the record, I meant to refer to hydrogen cyanide. I'd like to see some monitors on that air contaminant as well. But good on Prather answering some of those questions, because unlike Todd, I'm not angry. I just want answers instead of games. And I appreciate that these monitors have helped me correlate real life experiences that would otherwise remain a what if, maybe, probably scenario. I look forward to when they're no longer needed, but until then, I expect the state of California to fund 100% of the cost, and I expect you at APCD to push to make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes public comment on this item, and I'd also like to note for the record that Member Gomez has joined.
All right, thank you. So with that, do we have any board member comments or questions? Member Gloria?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to just ask staff, I noticed obviously you're working closely with the city, at different locations and city on sites. Is there anything I can personally do to be helpful? How's that process going? Anything I should know to make sure that we're able to be as maximally responsive to whatever you need?
Sure. Thank you for that question, Member Gloria. We have been working really closely with city staff, and that process is going really well. We're currently working through almost ready to finalize the MOU for the property. So that's going. I will say that anything that local typically when we're locating monitoring facilities, we will go to local governments to seek to locate. What can be really helpful occasionally is if those property owners will assist with some of the site development. Sometimes it's easier for that to come directly from the jurisdiction that owns the property, as opposed to us going to procurement in the county. So there may be opportunities like that we can pursue with city staff, but I really appreciate you asking that question.
Site development being like security measures or
like a fence, like a slab, like access to power, those kinds of.
Thank you for sharing that. Obviously, anything that you need, I saw Chief Campbell, keep core for your team and
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Member Gloria. So for this item, the requested action is approving the staff recommendation for the hydrogen sulfide monitoring network enhancements, and specifically, so two items. Items number 1 and 2 for the hotspot monitoring site in the community of Nestor, move from the temporary location at Berry Elementary School to a more permanent site, the intersection of Leon Avenue and Tremaine Way, with expanded capacity to accommodate other monitoring programs in collaboration with research institutions and agencies. And number 2, move from the location in San Isidro Fire Station 29 to a location closer to the coast in Vero Beach as resources become available. So that's requested action. Can I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
And motion from Member Duncan. Second from Member Fitzgerald. Any last comments or questions? With that, I'll go ahead and take the vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions?
Thank you. With members of Berry, Cobal, and Wasserman are absent. That motion passes with all those vote members who are present voting aye.
Great, thank you. Moving on to item D4, the Office of Environmental Justice Program update, and this is just information only. So they're gonna have the clerk provide us the public testimony announcement, followed by the staff presentation by Deputy Director Vikia, as well as Michelle Lewis.
Thank you, Chair Bush. For the Governing Board Administrative Code, the submission period is closed for requests to speak on this item. All public testimony will be heard at the conclusion of the staff presentation.
Good afternoon again. Let me go to Deputy Director. With me for this item is Michelle Lopez, Program Coordinator for the Office of Environmental Justice. The San Diego County Air Pollution Control District Office of Environmental Justice, or OEJ, was established to ensure that environmental justice is integrated into all aspects of the district's work. This means supporting meaningful community engagement and making sure that equity considerations are built into rule development, permit reviews, complaint investigations, and other district actions. One of the biggest drivers for this work has been the Community Air Protection Program, also known as AB 617. From this foundation, OEJ has expanded into programs like the Environmental Justice Partnership and our Outreach and Education Program, which continue to grow and evolve. Our office also works hand in hand with other SDAPCD divisions, partner agencies, and community leaders to advance the commitments laid out in our environmental justice framework. Today's presentation will ground you in our programs and provide highlights of what OEJ has accomplished this past year. Next slide, please. Before we dive in, I'd like to introduce the Office of EJ team so you know some of the faces behind the work that we're going to talk about today. Shalom Abodi Lopez is our program coordinator who oversees the Office of Environmental Justice and leads the Community Air Protection Program. Lauren Perez is our public outreach specialist and leads the outreach and education program in our EJ communities. And David Flores is our air quality specialist and leads the Environmental Justice Partnership. And we have them here in the audience. David and Lauren. With that, I'll turn it over to my colleague Shalom to walk me through the foundation of our OEJ programs.
Thank you, Domingo. Next slide, please. Good afternoon, members of the board and members of the public. And as a fellow history major, I'm going to provide a very non-technical presentation. Okay, I thought you all three, so a little bit of a reader. So the Office of Environmental Justice is grounded in 3 board-approved guiding documents: the Office of Environmental Justice Framework, the Public Participation Plan, and the Equity Statement. Together, these set the foundation for the 4 main pillars of our work: community outreach, the Community Air Protection Program, the Environmental Justice Partnership, and 4, the agency-wide integration of environmental justice principles and practices into all we do. These pillars keep us focused on building trust, advancing equity, and ensuring that communities most impacted by air pollution are part of shaping solutions. Next slide, please. Our outreach and education work focuses on communities that face the highest burdens from air pollution. We meet people where they are, quite literally. That means we're partnering with trusted organizations, setting up in community centers, schools, parks, and providing resources in ways that are accessible and meaningful. This isn't one-time outreach. This is relationship building. People need consistent engagement before they can feel comfortable sharing their experiences and priorities, and that's really the heart of this work. Next slide, please. Over the past year, the Office of Environmental Justice has expanded its outreach for the IDA Residential Air Purifier Program. Focusing on families and neighborhoods with low participation, we've went door to door in 3 neighborhoods, connected directly with parents at schools, and partnered with the International Border Community Steering Committee, who served as strong program ambassadors. We also shared flyers with over 80 community organizations, delivered materials to 17 schools in the San Ysidro and South Bay districts, and supported 12 IDA-led registration and distribution events. These efforts ensured families had the information and support they needed to participate. Next slide. So far in 2025, our outreach efforts have been strong. We've had 12 APCD staff from different divisions in the organization actively supporting these events. We've hosted and attended 14 community gatherings, and through those efforts, we've reached more than 5,000 people this year alone. But what's more important is not just the numbers, it's the quality of engagement. Our focus is on education. At these events, we're helping people understand the critical role that APCD plays in protecting public health, and we show them how they can connect with us to share air quality concerns in real time, where to find air quality data, and how to make sense of what can sometimes be very complicated information. And the feedback is really eye-opening. Many residents tell us they had no idea what APCD does until we explain it. Once they understand, they begin to see how air quality directly connects to their everyday lives. For many, it's the first time they've thought about air quality as a personal issue. That awareness is incredibly powerful. It's the first step to building community-driven solutions. What you're seeing here on screen is a little bit of a snapshot of where we've been this past year. Next slide, please. The Community Air Protection Program, also known as CAP, was created under AB 617 to reduce air pollution in communities that are most impacted. Here in San Diego County, OEJ leads this work in close partnership with local residents, public agencies, industry stakeholders, academic institutions, and community-based organizations. We currently focus in two areas: the portside communities, which include the communities of Barrio Logan, Logan Heights, Sherman Heights, and West National City, and then also the international border communities, which include San Isidro and Otay Mesa East. These are rich in culture and history, but also carry some of the heaviest pollution burdens in the county. Next slide, please. Under the CAP, we work with residents to develop two critical tools: the Community Air Monitoring Plan, also known as the CAMP, which Dr. Soderman spoke about earlier, which identifies where air monitors are placed, what pollutants we measure, and how we track progress. And then the Community Emission Reduction Plan, which is also known as a CERN. This sets strategies to reduce pollution and improve public health on community priorities. The international border communities have made their priorities very clear: protect the most vulnerable residents through cleaner air programs, tackle traffic-related emissions from idling cars and heavy-duty vehicles, and invest in cleaner transportation options. For example, the CERP supports the development of rules and other enforceable strategies to reduce emissions from heavy-duty trucks. The CERP also includes strategies to address other sources like Border Patrol vehicles, freight trains, and local airports, while recognizing the cross-border impacts from not only the Tijuana River, but also trash burning and industrial emissions as well. Together, these efforts are about reducing exposure and building healthier and stronger communities. The air quality priorities and associated strategies associated by the portside communities similarly put public health at the center, such as expanding residential air filtration and monitoring, reducing exposure for vulnerable residents, and lowering health risks, including cancer risk. Additionally, these priorities focus on emissions from passenger vehicles, heavy-duty trucks, and finally, the working waterfront, which includes the port, Navy, and industry operations and shipyards as a major focus, with efforts to cut diesel emissions from equipment, ships, and harbor craft while advancing zero-emission technologies. Bear with me, we're on this slide for a little bit. I'd like to take a moment to share the role that the Office of Environmental Justice plays in implementing the CERP and the CAP. The office wears many hats. We serve as project managers to keep initiatives moving forward, facilitators to bring diverse voices to the table, connectors who link community members with resources, and coordinators who ensure the right people are engaged at the right time. We also focus on making sure information is accessible and meaningful, and we hold ourselves accountable as partners in advancing this important work. But it's really, really important to emphasize that we don't do this work alone. Implementation requires collaboration with every single division across the Air District, from rule development to compliance to monitoring to planning and engineering, and the list goes on, as well as close partnerships with outside public agencies. It's truly a collective effort, and the success of these plans really and truly depend upon these shared commitments. Working side by side with colleagues, agencies, and community members allows us to turn big goals into real progress for communities most impacted by air pollution. So the program highlights I will share on the next two slides are really not OEJ successes, I would say, but are really a reflection of the shared commitment and ongoing collaboration of all our colleagues at APCD, our partners, stakeholders, and dedicated community residents. Next slide, please. The following are some highlights from the international border community for 2025. First, our schools are taking meaningful steps to protect students' health. 7 schools in the San Isidro School District and 17 schools in the South Bay School District have applied for AB 617 funding to install high-quality air purifiers in classrooms and gathering spaces. Beyond the schools, we've also distributed nearly 7,000 air purifiers throughout the Tijuana River Valley, helping families breathe cleaner air inside their homes. Well, we're also seeing progress in urban greening efforts as well. Since January, the city of San Diego has planted more than 1,000 trees in San Isidro, Otay Mesa West, and Nestor as part of the Supplemental Environmental Program project, including 96 near schools and 87 in local parks, providing both shade and air quality benefits for the community. And finally, hydrogen sulfide monitoring, as we heard in the previous presentation, is taking place, collecting and sharing real-time air quality data, giving residents more access to information about the air they breathe. Together, these efforts reflect our shared commitment to healthier schools, greener neighborhoods, and stronger transparency for our border communities. Next slide, please. Some of the latest updates from the Portside community include construction that has begun at Pepper Park to improve amenities and expand community space. The port has also secured $58.6 million from EPA's Clean Ports program to advance about in total $86.3 million for the Clean Ports project, bringing major clean freight technology and upgrades. Also, Flagship Cruises received $15.27 million in state and AB 617 funding to bring 2 fully electric ferries to for the San Diego Coronado route. And through a new memorandum of understanding between the Air District and the port, we're prioritizing zero emission infrastructure, zero emission heavy duty trucks and cargo handling equipment programs, emission reductions from vessels and port owned vehicles, and a stronger public participation and transparency. The Portside Community Steering Committee is now in year 5 of SERP implementation, and we've been working very closely with the committee to develop a framework for continuing this important work beyond year 5, including defining goals and measuring success together as well. Next slide, please. Our district also has an opportunity to build stronger relationships with communities most impacted by air pollution outside of the 8617 communities I've just mentioned. The Environmental Justice Partnership for Clean Air, also known as EJP, is an innovative way to do this, helping us partner more directly with residents and prepare for challenges like wildfire risk, where communities increasingly look to the Air District for data and support. By building trust and bringing in technologies that provide better local data, we can advance innovative community-centered solutions that protect public health and strengthen connections across the region. EJP expands our reach beyond AB 617 communities. This collaboration brings together APCD, the California Air Resources Board, and 8 community-based organizations and residents across 10 communities that are currently disproportionately impacted by air pollution. Next slide. We're partnering with a community-based organization to support 10 communities. And these communities we're identifying using the Environmental Protection Agency's EJ screen, the county's EJ element, and CalEnviro screen tools. Together, we're rolling out a program that includes a 5-part workshop series reaching about 120 residents. The workshops cover basic air quality information, connection between air pollution and public health, community mapping, and monitoring. Alongside that, we have distributed indoor air purifiers for all current community participants and have plans to install 10 community sensor-based monitors and train residents in how to engage and directly do this work. The goal is simple but powerful. Reduce harmful exposures, equip residents with tools and knowledge, strengthen partnerships, and make sure that community voices guide policy decisions. This is about building lasting relationships and healthier futures in the region's most impacted communities. Next slide. So far, our team, in partnership with our community-based partners, have developed the majority of the popular education materials, some of which you have before you today. And we facilitated, as I mentioned, 10 workshops throughout the region. The impact of this program is real. Residents told us after they left the workshops that they have a stronger understanding of how air quality affects health. However, I do have to share something though. We have faced some challenges with this program. Due to the termination of EPA funding, which exclusively funded this program, we've had to pause the installation of community air sensors. And we've had to also pause our community workshop sessions as well. But that doesn't pause our team necessarily. We have been very active in pursuing new funding, such as the County Board of Supervisors Neighborhood Reinvestment Program, and also the California Air Resources Board Supplemental Environmental Program as well, which we hope to hear back from very, very soon. Additionally, we've been strengthening our partnerships and preparing materials so that we can quickly restart once resources are secured. Despite this, our commitment remains the same: to support communities that are most impacted by air pollution. Next slide. One of the most important things about the Office of Environmental Justice is that our work doesn't stand alone. We partner with every division across the district to make sure that environmental justice is built into daily operations. For example, this past year, we've been working closely with the rural development team to develop guidance on how to incorporate environmental justice considerations into the rural development process. Across all divisions, OEJ provides guidance on outreach and engagement. We connect staff with community-based organizations, share program information, and invite divisions to participate directly in OEJ-led community meetings so residents can hear from the experts themselves. In short, OEJ acts as a connector, making sure the community voices shape technical work. And that technical expertise is shared back in ways that the community can use. And this matters because when we connect the work of every division to the lived experiences of our communities, we build trust, accountability, and ultimately a healthier air for everyone in San Diego County. Next slide. So before we close, we want to ask for your help to raise awareness. Too often people only learn about air quality when they're already experiencing severe impacts of that, and we want to be more proactive, building relationships and sharing tools before a crisis arises. Our ask is simple: think about your networks, whether that's local organizations, community clinics, schools, neighborhood groups, and help us connect. Sharing this information expands our reach and helps families across the county make informed choices about their health. With your support, we can strengthen our partnership, expand our impact, and continue to build healthier communities across San Diego. We'd like to leave you all with some educational resources that I see that you all have in front of you. And we really hope that this will deepen your understanding of the work that we're collectively doing here at APCD. And really, our goal is to support and inform future decision-making as we truly value walking alongside you all in this effort, which not only includes the board members, but also members of the public as well. Thank you.
Thank you, staff. Really appreciate all of your work and the presentation on this. So with that, we'll move on to our public comment.
Thank you, Chair Bush. We received one request to speak on this item from Shrew. 3 minutes to address the board. Please begin by stating your name for the record, and you can use the timer on the screen to self-regulate your time.
Thank you. It's true. My concern is that APCD is still pushing equity, diversity, and inclusion. Don't you guys know that DIE is DEAD? It's the same as COVID 19, VS 100. An Office of Environmental Justice is a complete unnecessary bureaucratic waste of tax dollars. If APCD is struggling to respond to issues now, how would it respond better with less budget eaten up by more departments? If APCD's goal is clean air for all, why would APCD suggest its services are reserved only for certain communities? It is possible to establish a work plan of APCD priority issues without creating redundant departments. Has APCD ever held a workshop in Imperial Beach? If not, I'd like to see that. I would be happy to help spread the word and get some fun people there. And vehicles are not the largest source of air pollution in this county, because you'd notice that nobody's reporting noxious odors, health effects because of cars, maybe trucks, but not cars, like they are for sewage, landfills, and polluted rivers. But if APCD admits that the Tijuana-San Diego binational border is one of the busiest ports of entry in the nation, what is it doing to reduce the number of cars crossing, or to ensure the cars coming from Mexico meet California's emission standards? Why isn't APCD inspecting every vehicle and rejecting the non-compliant ones? APCD justice objectives should include air monitoring with at least one monitor in each city, because many cities have or will have a battery energy storage site. SDG&E alone has 21 planned. All of the fire-prone lithium-based infrastructure, such as wind turbines, electric scooters, bikes, and cars, are also adding countless toxic emissions to the air whenever they catch fire. Where is the governing instead of the campaigning? Where is the true care of medicinal nutrition? The strategies overall are fine, but I would suggest modifying number 1 to include non-mobile sources of air pollution, because not all pollution moves. Sometimes it just sits in a chair pretending to be a hero. And justice should include making sure all commenters who signed up are recognized, and that includes those you don't want to hear from. Jennifer Campbell. Have a good day, my APCD acquaintances. Maybe you'll see me in person when you stop having meetings the day before Santac. Thank you.
That concludes public testimony on this item.
All right, thank you, Clerk. We'll move on to board member comments right now. First of all, I really want to thank you, Shalom, for the presentation and also the materials. And just talk about that for a minute. I really appreciate them and think they're effective. They have the right combination to me of it's visual, it's engaging, it's simple to break down. It's in English and Spanish. And my one of the parts I like the most is on the page on the potential health impacts of air pollution, which I encourage our board members to check on as well. That really speaks very plainly and directly about the health impacts. And so much of these, when we talk about PM 2.5, when we talk about PM10, which is a particular matter, it's kind of this nebulous, and this really breaks it down to what the impacts are on health. So I found that the most valuable. So I really appreciate that. And honestly, just being into native plants and gardening, I almost squealed when I saw the seed package, the native seed plant package that you provided. So those things are meaningful, and I appreciate that. One of my questions about the community partners and MOUs, we have one with the port that's been really successful in bringing on the electrification efforts. But my question is on Caltrans and the emissions from the freeway. And according to the CERC, when I look at the map, that for diesel particulate matter and black carbon, which causes cancer, asthma, lung disease, heart disease, and even for the Portside Community and National City in OTC West Side, you can see on the map that it really does appear that the freeway is the biggest cause of that. So what engagement have we done with Caltrans? And if we haven't yet, what can we do moving forward? And not just at APCD, I'm willing to do more. The city, National City, we had those conversations at our council meeting on Tuesday, but I feel like sometimes that part of Caltrans is missing. So what can we do there?
Thank you. Caltrans is actually an active member in both of our steering committees, both at the international border and on Portside. And there are some measures included in the CERP that call to Caltrans to do some of that work specifically regarding barriers between the freeways and the communities. And we have also partnered with them in terms of establishing monitoring sites in Caltrans property. Actually, two of our monitoring sites in the Portside community are in Caltrans properties. So they are an active member in both CSCs, and we continue to coordinate with them on all the projects that are related to them that are identified as service.
Could you be more specific about where the monitors are or what exactly has that in like projects? Because the projects that you listed, I didn't see much there. Like I saw, it was mostly a lot of the port, but not the Caltrans itself.
The Caltrans monitoring sites, one is really close to the Chicano Park Museum. I don't have the exact address, but it's over there. And another one is near a freeway exit on Boston Avenue. So those are the two sites that we partner with Caltrans on.
And those are monitors.
Those are monitors specifically. The main pollutants that we measure there are black carbon. Also, we are doing some VOC analysis.
Got it. Well, let's have some more conversations and moving forward and perhaps offline, because those are passive measures that, just given the data that we already have existing without the monitors, I don't think that that's enough that Caltrans is doing it. Honestly, I don't think we have had enough, and not just APCD, I'm talking the State National City, other public agencies. I don't know that Caltrans is one of the biggest landowners, if you think about it that way, landlords, that their land, their freeways, that is responsible for a lot, if not the majority, of the diesel particulate matter. I don't think we've done enough to have them reduce that. So whether it's providing resources to mitigate for that pollution, whether it's air filters or yes, monitors, but especially even things like the tree plantings, I'm still not seeing that. So if we could talk more offline about that, because I'd really like to see us do more with that. And that doesn't mean APCD necessarily, like even just partnering with the Office of Environmental Justice in our city, National City, wanting to do that. So you just make note of that. Okay. And with that, any other board members have comments or questions for staff? Yes, Member Gomez?
Yeah, thank you. And thank you also for the presentation and the engagement of it. So appreciate it. So a question going back to the reference of the impact this particular work has had this particular year of doing funding rollback. You mentioned that the strategy has been to seek other funding, and assuming you're applying for that funding, not a current present, right? Is there, and I think this, and has there, going back to Chair Bush and Caltrans, has there been a conversation? I know everybody, all the agencies are struggling financially, I get it. But has there been a conversation with Caltrans of potential financial support or anything related?
Not specifically with Caltrans this project. We haven't engaged with them.
Okay. I would encourage us, and like I said, I'm mindful that there are every agency has been impacted. But I just think that's an important conversation as well to have. And then I was just reminded, I don't know if we had this conversation, but I know at one point we were talking about the possibility of looking at the DMV fees and increasing that as a potential pot, but I'm seeing that as a more need to explore that, just to try to be more creative.
So that's something that we're still looking at. We're going to be bringing back as part of our legislative program for the coming year. And we are actively engaged in statewide conversations with our counterparts from the state on that. The other piece that I would highlight that we've referenced here is our AB 617 program. We were successful in this legislative year, again, working with our statewide partners to get continuous appropriations in that program as part of the cap and trade reauthorization. So that's really good news. But we'll be doing more reporting back to the board in the legislative program item that's going to be coming in February of next year.
Yeah, I think the cap and trade has been branded to be called cap and faster. Like that.
You're right. That is the current brand. Yes. Apologies for that.
No, just being sarcastic right now. The other question that I had, I'm curious to see if there's any funding, or if you can speak to, I forget the reference to it, so I apologize, but any funding that is an outcome of industry violating their permits or any of that. What does that look like for us?
So those are supplemental environmental projects. Generally, and we've had a few that have come through our compliance division. It's not typically. Often we will be, the general approach is we seek civil penalties in order to ensure that there's deterrence for future violations. But there have been several supplemental environmental projects that have been adopted by the agency. One related to the Navy ship fire funded air purifiers. One that was mentioned in the presentation related tree planting by the city of San Diego. So we've got a handful of those that have come through. It's not something that we've typically done for industry, but it's not safe.
If I can add to one of the grants that we applied for to continue support of our environmental justice partnership is through a SEP program at the state level, because CARB also runs a SEP program, and so we applied to those funds as well.
I'm familiar with the CARB. I sit on the state board, VTSC, and we also have SEP there, and I think sometimes that money's not utilized, so I encourage that. If there's something.
Member Gomez, Sheldon, did you have an additional thought or comment?
I was just gonna state what the member stated.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, any other board member comments? Yes, Member Fitzgerald?
Yes, and thank you, Member Gomez, for asking about the funding. I had the same questions. And you did mention the neighborhood reinvestment program through the county. What was the second one that you're gonna?
That was the California Air Resources Board Supplemental Environmental Program, which is also known as SEP.
All right, anyone else? Okay, so none, thank you again, staff, our environmental justice staff for the presentation and information, all the work. Thank you. So with that, we move on to our air pollution control officer report. Paula.
Great, I will keep this brief. Thank you, Chairperson, board members. So we have kicked off our student art contest for 2026 for our calendar. And San Diego County students K through 12 are encouraged to submit their artwork reflecting the importance of clean art, of our vision of clean air for all in their communities and ways that we can all seek to reduce air pollution. And so 13 winners will be chosen and featured in our 2026 calendar, which we will make sure you all get a copy. Next, I'm going to give a couple quick updates on our IDA program. And so we'll be coming back, obviously, with a much more detailed presentation in December. But by way of updates, to date, we've distributed over 7,100 purifiers and the associated replacement filters, and we ordered the remaining units, so up to that 10,000 households that were in the original program, to be delivered to Fresno, and they're on their way on a shipment. It should be there by the end of the month. So it's been a little delayed with weather and all kinds of other things, but it's on its way. We prepared a mailer that will be going out to the remaining households in the area about the program. As we get closer to those units arriving in Fresno, we'll get that mailer out so that we'll be able to move as quickly as possible. We also currently have about 1,000 applications that we have approved for shipment. We're just waiting again on those units to arrive here to be able to get those processed. I also want to do a quick note, and again, we'll provide more information about this. We did do a survey of our program participants and found that we got over 1,300 responses, which was outstanding. And found that 79% indicated they helped to reduce odors in their home. 88% were satisfied with the purifiers overall. So those are really great numbers. Again, we'll be providing more details as we have time to analyze them and go through them. Public schools. We're finalizing grant agreements for air purifiers with the South Bay Union School District and San Ysidro School District that applied for Clean Air for All project solicitation. They will provide funding for over 800 air purifiers and 6,500 replacement filters so that we allow for several years of operation at 21 schools in the area. So we're just finalizing the contracts on that. Once we have the agreements in place for those districts, we'll move on to the other districts in that area. Daycares, I don't see our county partners here. But County Public Health Services conducted some initial outreach to our home-based daycares in the area, 27 of those. And so far, almost half of those have applied for or received purifiers, and we're conducting additional outreach to the other daycares in the area. And then for the non-home-based daycares, we think the bulk of those will be covered by the school-based program, because a lot of those daycares operate other school sites. But we also, we're going to plan to reach out directly to any of those that would not be covered by that. And we've ordered an additional 50 units from the manufacturer to come straight to our offices. Those should be here by next week, so that we can start to streamline that delivery to those other daycares. So things are going really well, very quickly, but again, we'll provide a much more complete update in our discussion in December. So thank you. Happy to answer the questions.
All right. Any board members have questions? Okay, with that, well, the next APCD board meeting will be held December 11th at 2 p.m. One of the major items we're addressing there is followed by the Tijuana River is the sewage crisis, but specifically, we're considering action item. What were the specific action items that are coming for us on that, just so our board knows?
I don't have the exact language in front of me, but generally it's a report back on a feasibility study. Gotcha. We're looking at expansion of the IDEA program to include 4 units per household, up to 40,000 units. So staff is currently working on that feasibility study.
Great. Okay, thank you. So with that, we'll see everyone December 11th. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.